Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 92. Paul Shaughnessy here. Producer Megan is on the sticks. Cody Saftik is on the line. Cody, I know Rebecca is dead to you. There were some other, favorable decisions along the way, but to hit a PRP, you're going to need some bounces along the way. There's a reason nobody really hits 13-leg parlays, 12-leg parlays. You need things to break right, and everything was breaking right except for Rebecca. As soon as that fight started, I was just like, this could be actually a kind of a tricky matchup for Rebecca. Before they even engaged, I'm like, because he likes to go to the wrestling when things are getting a little squirrely, and I don't know if he's going to want to do that, but it's like, I wish I had those thoughts many days in advance. Long story short, the good news, Cody, the good news is I believe the last time you hit a PRP, it was an event at the Apex that was headlined by Edson Barboza, which is what we have going on this week.
Yeah. It would have been nice if I could have hit a PRP going into Barboza, who was the last guy to hit me a PRP. Would have been great times. Yeah, I have those same feelings when the start of the fight happens, but I get those same feelings anytime I'm like, the bet is dwindling down. It's dwindling down. It's like, who's going to screw it up now? That you start to get those pre-fight vibes. And then the first round, I didn't like how he was going. You said that you thought that when he got in trouble, he got to the wrestling. I was hoping he'd get to the wrestling while he was fresh. Instead, he just marched him forward like an idiot. Like, he exhausted himself in that first round, fighting an unsustainable pace. He did win the first round, landed some big shots, and dropped Ferreira. But you knew, right, that he just wasn't going to be able to keep it going. Ferreira has awesome hands and pretty solid cardio. So when he didn't implement the wrestling game early, he waited till he was gassed. Then he tried shooting. Then he tried to wrestle. And he got the takedowns, Paul. Exhausted, dead on his feet, still got takedowns, but he was just too tired to do anything with them. I wish he would have wrestled earlier. But listen, I can't get in there and do the damn thing. The main thing is that we break down every single fight. So we give reads on every single fight. And I'd like for you to tell me which decisions you thought were so questionable, because there were some tight decisions. But I didn't think we robbed anything. I think everything went the way it was supposed to go. Guys like Chase Hooper went well above and beyond, but the reads were there. Unfortunately, one of them wasn't. Looked good in the first round. If he got the first round knockout, we're laughing. If he doesn't fight like an idiot and sustains a pace for 2 rounds and survives that third, we're laughing. If he gets mauled in the third, but it's a 10-8 round, but he had still won those first 2, take a draw. Great. Would have been great. But no. So, unfortunately, Dems to bounces. All we can try to do is, this is a greasy-ass card. But last week was a greasy-ass card, too. So, one of them will go eventually.
To answer your question, Trey Waters. I mean, that was my biggest winner of the night. But we were fortunate to get the decision. And the 30-27s. Were
the two 30-27s.
I had him by decision plus 475. And then, right before the fight kicked off, because I had mentioned on the show that I'm like, everyone thought the Quinlan fight was going to decision. I think Waters is going to win a decision in this fight. And then, so I saw it was 500, so I doubled down. It ended up being, the only reason I profited on the card, because a lot of my other reads weren't all that great or just didn't come through. But yeah, that one, particularly the 30-27s, were like, okay, I can't really complain about any decisions for the rest of this card. I thought Tisha Torres won as well, but that one, it was so close. I'm not going to complain whatsoever about that. That's just how MMA gambling goes, particularly when fights go to the judges.
And I'll tell you one thing about that spot there. That spot there on the show, I took Tisha Torres, and then on the play that I played out on Saturday, I switched it. But I'll be straight up with you, I didn't play other side. I took the over 2.5 because my book doesn't let me parlay the decision props, only the 2.5. Took the over 2.5 at minus 400. And that's the greatest play in the world, really. But in terms of the fight itself, okay, I did actually score for Tisha Torres. The Trey Waters fight's different, man. Billy Goff's an idiot moving forward, swanging bombs, tons of bombs, and eating tons of bombs. And if you listen to that fight with the broadcast on, they're just sucking it up. They're like, oh, Billy's chin's so good. Oh, Billy's putting his chin on display right now. That's a bad thing. Billy's getting cracked. So you're not their cage side as the judge. And I will say that you see this all the time in boxing. It's like, man, the Argentinian guy's moving forward, swinging bombs. The other guy's backing up. It's like the other guy's boxing. Like he's actually landing clean shots. The other guy, a lot of this stuff's landing off the guard. A lot of this stuff's missing. A lot of this stuff is Ricardo Mayorga, chopping shots off the elbow, off the shoulder, whatever you can get. So it was a super close fight. And by no means did I think two guys would have a 30-27 for Trey Waters, but Billy should have went to sleep. Waters landed the shots. And in the first round, close, edged Waters. The second round, super close. Waters is losing. Then there's like a minute left and he hits like some type of second wind and rocks the shit out of Billy again. And then the third round, super close, but they're both landing. So you're not the first person that told me like, yeah, you got lucky on that one. But it's like, I don't know what robbery occurred. The two 30-27s are questionable, but I can't say that the right man didn't win still.
Yeah, I mean, I profited from it as well. But like, that's one of the things when everyone, this is really the point. The only point I want to make is that like people love screaming robbery. Sometimes fights are just close, right? And over time in this sport, betting on this sport, you're gonna end up on the right and wrong side of a lot of these closer decisions. Like not everything is Diego Sanchez 30-27 against Ross Pearson. Like that was obviously the biggest robbery maybe of all robberies. It's not always, it's not so cut and dry. A lot of times fights are very close and there's a thin margin between them. That's
yeah,
really
but people also love that just you're coming forward all the time type mentality. So let's say Sean O'Malley, Chris Moutinho, okay? And this was not a Sean O'Malley, Chris Moutinho situation. The thing is that people would tell you, especially when the fight was happening in the weeks afterwards, they were like, Moutinho gave him a hell of a fight. It's like, no, he did not give Sean O'Malley a hell of a fight. He came forward and he got punched in the face a lot. At no point was he winning. At no point was he almost going to win, but it's admirable that this guy took that many shots, that he never quit, that he was still swinging, that kept it close. Wasn't close at all. Some of those rounds could be argued it's 10-8s. But because he coming forward, I mean, there's a love for that. So Billy Goff's got that it factor in that he'll fight 10 times in the UFC, go 3-7, and win 2 or 3 fight of the night. So they're going to keep him around because he's an all-action guy, but like he just took so much damage. And Trey doesn't have like a super high ceiling, but robbery. I was okay with that one. I was okay with pretty much all of them. The Tisha one I was fine with because I was more invested in the over 2.5. It's just when it came down to Rebecca, it was like this one guy could screw up. Not even just that entire card, but like I had plays from Battlefield Fight League. Yeah, Battlefield Fight League on the Thursday night, and then the PFL on the Friday night, and it was culminating with the UFC on the Saturdays. Like he didn't just blow like a 12-fight ticket. He blew a 23-fight ticket and a 21-fight ticket. I don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about these fights and get back going.
Yeah. In terms of apple pie shitters.
Dude, he's dead to me. He's absolutely dead to me.
He's up there all time pie shitters. All right, let's hit a PRP this week. We got Lerone Murphy taking on Edson Jr. Barboza, -140 for Murphy, +120 for Barboza. The way I think about this matchup, Cody, and maybe it's like recency bias, and we were both on Barboza last time out against Sadiq Yusuff, a guy who's primarily a striker, maybe a little bit of wrestling. I see this matchup kind of the same. I feel maybe Lerone Murphy has slightly better wrestling. He was able to get 3 takedowns against Kulabau last time out there, but he hasn't historically been a big-time wrestler. We all know with Edson Barboza, like that's how you get him out of there. Murphy hasn't really been tested in the 5 rounds, at least at the UFC level that as of this point. So we don't know. And the volume, in fairness to like Sadiq has better volume than what we've seen from Lerone. Is Lerone able to fight the fight that Sadiq did against Edson Barboza? I don't know, man. Edson Barboza put up, well over 150 significant strikes there. Sadiq actually struck him there, but like there were knockdowns and some of the more damaging shots, particularly late in that fight for Edson Barboza, was what secured the fight for him. I think it's pretty clear dog or pass here. Edson Barboza again, just he's becoming that guy, just like killing prospects as they try to rise up the ranks. I don't think he'll ever be champion. He's obviously never going to be like top 5, but he's a tough out, particularly if you don't have a stout wrestling game. So it's Barboza for me. What about you?
Yeah, I got conflicted feelings about this one. So we went with them the last time over Sodiq Youssef, and I'm going to agree with you. The breakdown would be very much similar. But to me, the key factor in that one is that Sodiq Youssef is known to gas out. Like, he just doesn't have very good cardio. So if you look at Sodiq Youssef in 3-round fights, but the third round's always his worst round. The game plan there was that Edson Barboza, a savvy veteran who's fought all the best guys, who generally can make it into those later rounds, who can thrive in those later rounds because he's got good cardio. And has been 5 rounds before that he could take Sodiq Youssef to those later rounds and win. And then that's what happened. He took a hell of a beating in the first.
Mhm.
The second was a lot closer. And then 3, 4, 5, baby, Barboza. So we needed Sodiq to gas, and he did. With Lerone Murphy, he does not throw. He doesn't overexert himself. Everything's kind of cool, calm, and collected. He's not throwing a ton of volume, but he's not needed to throw a ton of volume. In none of his fights has he been outworked. He's always landing more significant strikes than his opponents. And a lot of those times, he's actually giving up takedowns as well. He's only rocking like a 46 takedown defense percent in the UFC. Gave up 5 takedowns to, a couple of these guys. Santos takes him down. He's been taken down by Makwan Amirkhani. He said he's got a good get-up game, athletic guy, moves well, and kind of like a point-type fighter. No huge power, but he conserves himself well. So I'm not as worried about Lerone Murphy gassing out in those later rounds. If you look at him versus Gabriel Santos, he wins a split decision, but he landed 93 significant strikes over the course of 3 rounds, right? And he had been giving up 5 takedowns in that fight. Got up every time. Still lands 93 in 3 rounds. Look at the breakdown of that fight, and the third round is his best round. He lands 35 significant strikes in the third round alone. This fight with Josh Kulabau, another fight that it's not super high volume. I didn't think he looked overly good. The third round is his best round. He lands 20. First round, 18. Second round, he lands 12. The third round, he lands 29. 49 significant strikes attempted. So he's building, and that's the thing about him. He's got a lazy man game to him where he's just like a slow starter. We'll talk about Adrian Yanez a little bit later. They're slow starters because they know they're skilled, they know they're technical, and as a result, these guys that just get the bite on them, get the jump on them, get that quick start and just come slinging bombs, those guys can win that first round. They can win that second round. The longer it goes is when they start to find their comfort level, their rhythm, their range, their timing, and that's when they start to put things together. We banked on Sodiq Youssef gassing out the later the fight went. We can't bank on that this time around. And then with Edson Barboza, it's like he's the gift that keeps on giving, in that he's been, not only just he's lost fights in the UFC, he's been shit kicked in fights in the UFC for many years. And most guys' brains and bodies and their desire, it just like it doesn't come back. And his always has. Like, he's lost some really bad fights. And the next fight, it's like he's career back. He's reinvented. But even Sodiq Youssef, who's not really that high of a power puncher, not really that big of a puncher, let's say, even he's got Barboza just absolutely dead to rights early before he gasses. If Murphy hurts him early, we can't rely on him gassing late. If he doesn't gas early, it's going to be a close competitive. Both guys are going to land over 100 significant strikes. I don't see either guy gassing overly, super tight, super competitive. I'd like to tell you just take the over 3.5, but it's -150, and they're going to be banging it out on the feet that entire time. So I can't actually recommend that either. Smart guy would probably just hit a pass. Smart guy hedges out at the end of the night if you still got this thing riding on your ticket. But because I got to make a pick on a show, karma's probably going to bite me in the ass because Barboza got my PRP last time. But I think I'm going to go Murphy, man.
Should we shoey bet this one or what?
I'll take a shoey bet on this one.
All right, love it. Love it. And I mean, the only thing I'll just cast on a shadow on Murphy is that decision that he got against Gabriel Santos, where he was taken down a whole bunch, controlled a whole bunch.
Well,
it was close. It was a split decision, but it did not hurt that they were in England for that decision as well. A lot of people scored it for Gabriel Santos. And then Santos goes out the next time out, gets absolutely murdered by David Onama. Not that there's any shame in that. David Onama is super, super talented. I'm just saying.
We're all the same, yeah. You're not wrong.
I mean, Edson Barboza is 38 years old. This could be the end of the line.
That's part of my narrative here, is that when you look at the stat, when you look at the stats, it's a real stat, is that nobody below 155 has ever defended the title after the age of 35. So those lighter weight classes, it's dominated by speed, and speed is the first thing to go as you get older. So Barboza's made a career of being fast, being agile, being rugged, being tough. It's just he's hittable at this point. He's taking a ton of damage. He's 38 years old. Murphy's not young by no stretch himself, and this is really his first step up. Like, he's not fought anybody good, and he's been with the UFC for 5 years. So he's not the end all be all. Just I'm kind of thinking that it's a 2-on-1 him and Father Time versus Barboza. So I'm gonna take Lerone Murphy and his tag team partner.
There aren't many people on earth that at 38 years old look as good as Edson Barboza, though. His abs have
That's
abs.
Fair. That's fair.
The guy's jacked. All right, let's move on to the co-main event. We've got Khaos Williams taking on Carlston Harris. Khaos Williams minus 120 favorite. Carlston Harris can be had for plus 100. Pretty much a straight pick 'em, Cody. And I don't think it's like, it's not some sort of crazy matchup where you're wondering what each guy is going to do. Khaos Williams is going to try to keep this on the feet and throw hammers, land big bombs. That's what he does his best. Carlston Harris, if he's able to get this fight to the mat, should have a significant grappling advantage. Small cage. Should be an absolute banger. Should be a fun fight. I'll lean on the grappling here because I don't know if Khaos Williams has really been tested against somebody with this pedigree of jiu-jitsu. So that's my take. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, this is another one that's, it's a tricky fight. It's closely lined, closely contested. You can see either guy winning. It just depends on like who gets that game plan going. And it's very much striker versus grappler. When I look like Khaos Williams, when he first came to the UFC, it was like, oh, this guy's got power for days. He's going to be a murderous power puncher. But we thought that about Abdul Razak Al Hassan. We've thought about other guys in the past, and they kind of fanned out. Michel Pereira for a long time, right? He's getting back to it a little bit now, but he had just smoked guys, and then he goes on a run of like 5-6 decisions. It doesn't mean he can't crack no more. It just means he's learned how to like kind of like reel back on that power, not have to overexert it, not have to rely on it too much, and just set it up a little bit. It doesn't always lead to the knockout, but it does lead to victories. Khaos Williams' case, again, when he starts off, knocks out Alex Morono, knocks out Al Hassan, goes to decision with Pereira in a fight that he outstruck Michel Pereira 55-44, gave up 2 takedowns, got right back up, outworked him. Go check out MMA decisions. Go check out the interwebs. A lot of people scored that fight for Khaos Williams, which would have been a career-defining victory, I think, for him. Bounces back by being Matthew Selmsberger, a guy that he probably could have knocked out, but he's fighting a little bit smarter. 91 significant strikes landed in that one. Miguel Beza outworks him, knocks him out in the 3rd round, shows that he can use that work rate. He uses a lot of inside kicks, sets up the big right. Inside kicks, sets up the big right. He's got that heavy power and just quick little touch, go leg kick, and then hit you with something. So a guy like Beza that's a little bit chinny and a little bit hittable, but again, cardio, power, pace, takedown defense is an 80%. Only guy that's ever taken him down was Michel Pereira twice. Has not been taken down by anybody since. That Rolando Bedoya guy did outwork him. There's the argument that Bedoya won that fight. But again, he stuffed both of Bedoya's takedown attempts. He landed the bigger, heavier strikes, and he landed 130. Yeah, the other guy landed 149, but again, this is a work rate fight. This is a fight where they're scrapping it out and they're both putting up numbers. Carlston Harris is not going to do that. His striking is, he'll seize the moment. He'll try to capitalize with like a big overhand right or something like that. But for the most part, he's looking to clinch up, drag this fight to the ground. He's physically strong, but I can't say that he's all that much stronger than Khaos Williams. If he doesn't peel him to the ground, he's either going to get cold cocked by something or just simply outworked. I like the guy. I like his regional show career. I like what he's done in the UFC. The win over Impa Kasaganai aged incredibly well. The loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, no one's going to hold that against him. The fight with Jared Gooden, again, he relies heavily on the takedowns. Once he seizes those takedowns, not a whole lot of ground and pound, 2 submission attempts here and there, but there's not a whole lot of working. If he took down Gooden, that's fine. If he takes down Khaos Williams, fine. If he doesn't, he's going to get beat up on the feet. And then the next fight with Jeremiah Wells, it was in Nashville. We're watching it live. He loses the first 2 rounds. He's down 2 rounds. And in the 3rd round, like not even he's losing, but it's close. He's most definitely losing this fight. And in the 3rd round, he snatches up that anaconda choke. So got a nasty BJJ black belt, nasty submission game to him. Evolucio Thai guy, I like him. But is there enough substance on the in-between? I don't know. He had landed 5 significant strikes until that point against Jeremiah Wells. Offensively as a grappler, dynamite. Defensively as a grappler, he just got neutralized the whole time. Cardio didn't look great, although he did get a 3rd round submission, so it wasn't bad. There's not enough substance on the in-between. So if he gets the takedown and he can rack up a submission, great. If not, I think Williams just outworks him for 2 of the 3 rounds. Keeps it fighting, keeps it standing for the most part. And just touch and go. If he can plant his feet, land 1 big right hand, land that 1 big damaging shot, that eye-catching shot that's good for the judges, great. If not, just stick to the fundamentals and those should grind through. So I'll take that slight edge on Khaos Williams.
Yeah, I mean, a lot
Sorry. Last thing I want to throw in there is like Williams trains with Charles Johnson. He trains with Jamal Hill. He trains with Joaquin Buckley. Like, this Michigan camp is like a really good Michigan camp. So he's in like really good hands, and I think he'll have a good game plan.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of questions about this fight get answered probably in the first like grappling exchange between the two of them. If Harris is able to get it to the ground, it could be a long night for Williams. But like, yeah, it's not like Harris's wrestling is some like elite by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, like obviously able to take down Jared Gooden 5 times, but still went to unanimous decisions. So I understand where you're coming from on that front for sure. Khaos Williams should be prepared for this type of matchup. Let's move on to the next one. We got Themba Gorimbo taking on Ramiz Brahimaj. Minus 130 for Gorimbo, plus 110 for Brahimaj.
So trappy, Paul.
Well, here's the thing is that like this line opened up super, super wide. And everyone like, everyone in the know knows that like Gorimbo's the guy that like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson has like helped out with, providing him with different resources so that he could
House. That's a pretty good resource.
Yeah, that's a pretty good resource. Providing him with some help so that he could pursue MMA full time. He's obviously long. He's got the heart and the will, and is definitely working and putting in the time to be his best self. But like we saw flaws with him coming into it, and one of those flaws I feel like it's a big question mark still. But like, how is he gonna do if somebody has a grappling edge over him? This was like minus 260 plus 220 or something when it opened, and it got smashed. It got smashed down to a pick'em. I can't disagree with it. I think that early money with like the question marks that we still have about Gorimbo, Brahimaj's not exactly, a world beater by any stretch of the imagination, but if he does get it to the mat, he should have some advantages here. I don't know. I'll wait to hear your takes on it because I'm like really torn. At a price of a pick'em, I can see this one going both ways, so I don't have an official pick yet. I'm gonna probably tail you or maybe disagree. We'll see.
It's all narrative. All narrative. It just depends on like what side. Because Brahimaj on tape, it seems like he would be the better guy. On paper, seems like he'd be the better guy. But the narrative is just Themba Gorimbo's way all day. Not only is it like, the Rock's behind him and bought him a house, and Dana likes the guy and threw a couple extra bucks his way, and Colby Covington says he's a great training partner and, helped him in the early going. Like, he's a really likable guy, but he's a super hard worker. Thing is that everything he's done prior to landing in the United States of America, throw it out the window. Like, where was he training? Who was he training with? What was he doing? So when you watch tape on him back in the day, it's shit, Paul. It does not look good. It did not look good. But he has a will and a desire to be a fighter. He's definitely a fighter. Racks up a bunch of victories. Eventually shows up in the U.S. Shows up at MMA Masters, South Florida. Great location to pick. Great camp to select. Shows up there and he fights AJ Fletcher, and he's a certified bum, but he just gets there. Similar to Ariane Lipsky got to American Top Team, and her first fight was your girl, catch a beating, right? It was a bad fight, but stays. And staying is the main thing because you're going to get better. So in the Fletcher fight, Fletcher's no longer with the organization. Physically strong guy, like athletic, former football player, but never really clicked in terms of putting an all-around game together. And you see when he takes Themba Gorimbo down, Themba's lost, dude.
Well, Themba took him down. And then it was
Themba took him down. Yeah, okay, loses a scramble, and then you see how easily that he's able just to like pass guard on him. How easily he's just like able to improve his position on Themba. It's like defensively, he's not a very good grappler. Themba eventually gives up the submission, gets caught in a guillotine choke. The one thing I will say, like the only thing you can take away from this rawness that wasn't overly great. Let's cut it real here. The one thing is that Fletcher, an athlete, a guy that's going balls to the walls here, he's gassing out. If he doesn't get that guillotine choke, he's in a world of shit. Themba Gorimbo, meanwhile, is fresh. He's like fresh as a daisy. He just makes a stupid mistake. Goes back to the gym and works hard. Now, at this point, he starts to get some resources. He starts to get some sponsors. He starts to get people getting behind him publicly. And then you see the Takashi Sato fight. Well, the Sato fight, Sato can't defensively grapple either, but he just ragdolled him for 15 minutes, no problem, and didn't break a sweat. This guy's got cardio for days. He is 33 years old. He's had a lot of fights, but he's fresh in terms of he hasn't had those like long in the tooth miles. He hasn't had those training room miles. And clearly the guy's got a work ethic and a personality that can't be matched. There's a reason why somebody would say, I want to help you to that tune, because they meet you and they see this guy wants it bad and this guy's willing to do everything. He's just never had those resources provided. So that Sato fight is such a jump up. Now, the Pete Rodrigues fight, people will say, well, we didn't learn anything from it. That's fair, but you also are seeing he's got some raw power too, man.
Mm-hmm.
Pete Rodrigues lasted 3 minutes versus Jack Della Maddalena. Themba just folds him up in like 31 seconds. So you have, again, one of these very explosive, athletic, just raw athletes, okay? He's got natural power. He's got infinite gas tank. He's got a desire to learn and work ethic that can't be matched. And only now is, even though he's older, only now is that really being provided to him and he's starting to click things together. So if you're of that narrative, then you think, he calls out, he wants a title fight after his last fight. Like, that's a joke, okay? That's a joke. And the UFC realizes, hey, this guy's calling out for a title fight or says he wants to take a top 5 guy on. Let's give him Ramiz Brahimaj. Like they're trying their damnedest to give him a winnable fight. And this is the winnable fight. So again, people will say, well, I watched a fight from UFC Africa. And it's like, it's not the same guy. It's not the same guy. Now, you cannot watch UFC Africa. Watch the AJ Fletcher fight. It's not that long ago. He's not that good on his back. And that's going to be a problem here. But if you're of the narrative of this guy's a hardworking guy and people are finally behind him and he's getting better, then yeah, he wins this fight. At this line, this is a great line, right? What it opened at, not so much. The line maker sees what's going on and sets it like that. It's people don't like him and people want to fade him and people want to bet against him. Fair. But Themba's biggest weapon would be his cardio, I feel. Now, Ramiz Brahimaj, he's like the polar opposite. The guy is a IBJJF. I want to say he's a world champion at blue belt, not a black belt world champion, but he did win the world championship in gi jiu-jitsu. Guy has good jiu-jitsu. The guy has good wrestling, better on paper wrestling than Ramiz Brahimaj. He wrestled a little bit back in the day, is translated over it well in MMA. And then when you look at all of his wins, quite literally all of them, debut against Richard Bailey, first round rear naked choke, David Lopez, 20-second Kimura. How do you even set up a Kimura in 20 seconds? But the guy's got great grappling, right? Andrew Sosa, rear naked choke, 55 seconds. Josh Sturgill, guillotine choke, 24 seconds. Ben Simmons, guillotine choke, 36 seconds. Bilal Williams, rear naked choke, 4:10. First loss, Evan Cutts, decision, of course, because when he doesn't get that first round submission, he's got terrible cardio. And so Cutts beats him by decision. Fair. Back on his run again, submits William Macario, second round guillotine choke. I beat this Carlos Martinez. Again, it's the same thing. First round, 55-second, arm triangle choke, lost to Justin Patterson by decision. Let's just go to his UFC run, though. Against Max Griffin, he can't take Max Griffin down. He gasses out almost instantly. He gets absolutely boxed up to the tune that his ear falls off. Half falls off. It's dangling, and it's disgusting. And similar to James Thompson versus Kimbo Slice, they just wave this thing off. And they're like, no, Mas, dude, you can't keep going on. So he's super hittable. His striking's not all that good. His takedowns, that's what he relies on, because the jiu-jitsu is the bread and butter. He needs to be able to take down his opponent, needs to be able to sink some hooks in, needs to be able to slow down that pace. If he can't, he's got a history of gassing out. That's why he lost to Court McGee. Court McGee's never been submitted in his entire career. One time on The Ultimate Fighter was an exhibition fight against Chris McRae, I think. But outside of that, like his submission defense is one of his best weapons. So it's the same shit. He tries to take him down, he can't. He gasses out. Once he gets gassed out, he can't rely on a plan B of like, let's kickbox a little bit. He's got no pace. He's got no real sustainability there. He's just like a one-trick, one-and-done type pony. Submits Michael Gelmore. Come on. And then a 2-year-long layoff. So again, if you're the UFC and you're like, man, Themba's got a great story and there's a lot of people that want to get behind him and there's a lot of marketability, dare I say, that we could do with him, he needs these winnable fights. Similar to me with Latana Chibutsi. I'm not running to throw him back in there for the simple fact, I'm not trying to bank no money off him. The simple fact is, if he was going to fight somebody, it's got to be the right opponents. And in their case, this is the UFC. How many right opponents are there? But Ramiz seems to be that guy, because Ramiz needs the first round submission. And if he doesn't, Themba's going to take over all day. Meanwhile, Themba's been active recently. He's on a little run. He's doing good. If he actually wants to fight the bigger and better guys, he's got to prove to you that he can stuff takedowns, and he's got to prove to you that he can get out of submission attempts. And Ramiz Brahimaj is not elite as a wrestler, and he is certainly not elite. He's not even good as a wrestler or good as a grappler. he's okay. He's okay. If you can't hang with that guy, then there's no long-term run for Themba. So they're starting him off as soft as they can. The guy's got known cardio issues throughout his career. He's been on a 2-year-long layoff. He's 2-2 in the UFC. Both of those losses not against, the most riveting of competition. This is a very winnable fight for Themba Gorimbo. But again, he looks so bad against AJ Fletcher off his back that if he looks like that again here, he's in trouble. But if he's marginally better than that, and it's enough to just get out of the first round, you're going to see him take over big time. So I'm going to take Themba, and I'm also going to take that live betting market that if Themba if he loses the first round, oh, well, you missed it, right? If he loses the first round but survives, you can get a better number on him. It's an all-day situation. If this thing makes it to the third round, Themba's going to curl this guy over. So we just need to get it there.
To summarize, Max Griffin against Ramiz Brahimaj. Brahimaj shot 0 takedowns in that fight. Maybe he just was like, I can't take this guy down. Then his damn ear explodes. Everyone remembers that one. They stopped the fight. Court McGee, I mean, the guy's a brick wall. Sasha Palatnikov, I mean, first round rear naked choke. But, Sasha Palatnikov was one of the worst fighters in the welterweight division. Maybe, he's on that Mount Rushmore. After he left the UFC, he goes out to the regional scene, gets a couple of wins, and then loses to something called a Tanner Sarcino. And then hasn't fought MMA since, though. So yeah, it's not exactly an awe-inspiring performance. Michael Gilmore, one of the other guys that is one of the worst guys that we've seen. So I'm with you. I think the steam was probably right. There's enough question marks. I wouldn't be feeling comfortable laying the -260 that they opened it at. But at close to a pick, it's Themba for me as well. All right, we got Adrian Yanez taking on Vincius Salvador. Adrian Yanez is a -370 favorite. Salvador can be had for +310. Yanez is the second biggest favorite on the card. I imagine the pick is Yanez here, Cody.
Yeah, it just seems like another spot where they're, I would say, dare I say, trying to get Yanez back on track. The UFC loved Adrian Yanez, man. They kept putting in these boards about, best boxing in MMA, and how this guy could go over in a crossover fight and do so well. And legitimately, he is like a poor man's George Masvidal. But the thing with these George Masvidal and Luke Rockhold and just these cool, calm style type fighters is that they're slow to get going sometimes. Yeah, Masvidal hit you with the flying knee. Great. But for the most part, it's like they dropped the first round. Masvidal's been screwed on a ton of decision losses in his career because he's so talented that he doesn't see the immediate danger. Therefore, he doesn't get going right away. He needs a round or two. And then there's no saying how much damage could rack up in that time. If you look at Yanez and all the performances he looks bad in, you have to go to the Randy Costa fight. He loses the first round to Randy Costa for no other reason than Randy's just throwing nothing but jabs and head kicks, and Yanez is just biding his time, blocking, slipping, moving, not throwing really anything back, gets outworked in the first round, but he gets the second round knockout. His fight with Davey Grant, close fight, but Davey Grant's a go-getter, blue-collar, hard-working man, and Yanez is a bit of a stylist, so that is going to lead to these close, contentious type fights. Then the UFC likes the guy so much, they're like, okay, let's throw him into these tough fights. Let's move him up the rankings for real. So they give him Rob Font. Now, Rob Font's not known as the biggest power puncher. He can land 200 significant strikes on you and not put you down. He landed over 100 significant strikes on Cody Garbrandt. Didn't put Cody Garbrandt down, okay? Font's not really that big of a power puncher, but the problem with Yanez is because he's a slow starter and Font's a quick starter, Font just gets the jump on him, starts hitting him, hurts him right away, hits him with the right hook. Less than 3 minutes into the first round, they fold him over. They don't give him a bounce back fight. They say, here's Jonathan Martinez. And the problem with that one is Yanez is very, very flat-footed. He's, dare I say, one-dimensional with his boxing. It's not one-dimensional, but he's clearly looking to box in there. So he's extremely flat-footed. And when you take 3-4 minutes to get going and your opponent throws nothing but leg kicks, it's a bad game plan. You're too heavy on your lead leg to begin with. You're allowing him to just kick. And now 3 minutes in, you want to start countering, but your leg's gone. So Martinez fought a brilliant game plan, and a good guy just fought Jose Aldo. Come on. But it's another spot where Yanez has very questionable ring IQ and is just not quick enough of a starter. So they know they got a really talented guy who's still young and is still, a prospect. But when they threw him into top 5, top 10 competition, he did not swim with those boys. Now they need to reel it back. When you look at Vincius Salvador has been a career 125 pounder, right? On the Contender Series, he fought Shannon Ross at 125. Your boy, Shannon Ross. And for the record, I know, what the hell?
You've actually bet him. I was just like,
just one time.
I could take a punch better than this guy.
No, I'll tell you why I say that is because I did bet it one time, but it was the Jesus Aguilar, I think. Anyways, he had 0 wins by he never knocked out anybody in his entire career. He had like 8 submission wins and 0 knockout wins. Yeah. And Paul's like, it honestly doesn't matter. This will be his first one. Not only was it first one, it was less than a minute into the fight. It's like Shannon Ross can't take a punch. But yet Shannon Ross went 9 minutes and 22 seconds with Vincius Salvador. Yeah. So Shannon Ross had a lot of good moments in the fight with Vincius Salvador, was hitting him, was hurting him. And then he eventually finds a way to put Shannon Ross away. But again, 125er, big 125er, but he is a flyweight. Then he fights Victor Altamirano. Again, this is another, Altamirano's a small-ish 125er, but he's got speed, he's got volume, he predominantly a striker, good enough takedown defense to keep the fight upright, and then go, go, go. And again, you see in those type spots where he's just not super comfortable in there. He's a big, tall guy. He's a little bit slow. He's willing to throw down, but he just falls behind the striking count. Against Altamirano, outstruck 62-47, and he also gives up 3 takedowns in the mix. Not that I think that Yanez mixes in takedowns. It's that he's not a great striker, and he's not a great grappler. So the UFC's got a guy moving up from 125. He's 0-2 in the UFC. The one win on the Contender Series is against who you would say is probably the worst. Your Mount Rushmore at flyweight, I know who's on it, okay? So this is what would be considered the bottom of the barrel. Now he's moving up a weight class. Same thing with CJ Vergara. CJ Vergara is limited, but he's a go-getter, boy. This guy stays in your face and he throws down, and so he just can't stick with the stat count. He can't keep up with them, and he gets outstruck 109-88 against a guy that's a top 15 at the division at best. And never going to break in past that. So you have some limited stuff. Yanez fights Rob Font, who's been a top 5 guy in the division, and then follows that up with a fight with Jonathan Martinez, who's been a top 7 or 8 of the division. They're 100% like, you need a bounce back. You deserve a bounce back. And they have found him the bounce back. As a matchmaker, I know this. Now, will he win? Well, that's up to him, but he's not shot. He's not done. You could say that his durability is not great. That's fair, but Salvador is not a hitter. So where does Salvador win? Does he drag Yanez to the ground? Possible, but not likely. Do they stand and bang it out? Yanez works his body, works that jab, works to the outside, looks okay the first round, starts to feel more comfortable the second, seizes the day and knocks him out in the third. That's a lot more likely of a scenario, truth be told. So I got Yanez to take the bounce back and do exactly what he's supposed to do with it. If you wanted to chase some crazy prop, maybe like a Yanez round 3 knockout, because again, Yanez's knockouts tend to materialize later, and Vincius now up a weight class, even though he's a big flyweight and he won't have to cut as much, the guys at 35 hit infinitely harder than the guys at 25, and I think he's about to experience that firsthand.
Yeah, it's a little bit too early in the week for those types of props to matriculate, because the ones I'm looking at right now aren't very general. Like round 3 KO for Yanez is plus 700, which I feel somebody will probably offer something better than that. It's a round 3 prop. Not that submissions aren't really in play for him, but yeah, a lot of what you said makes 100% sense. It's Salvador was taken down 3 times against Altamirano, so a flyweight, just his wrestling game hasn't really quite been there. Really didn't attempt any takedowns against Shannon Ross, who is primarily a kickboxer. I know that you want to just knock him down, that's what you do against Shannon Ross. You don't really necessarily have to even attempt takedowns. He'll just fall down, get knocked down to finish off the fight. Everything kind of points towards Adrian Yanez getting back on track. Minus 370 price does seem a little bit steep, but even Vincius Salvador being a big flyweight coming up to this division, they're going to be about the same size. If Tapology is to be trusted, they're about the same height, about the same reach. So it's there's nothing too particularly scary about Vincius Salvador for Adrian Yanez. So I'm with you. I expect him to get back on track. We got Angela Hill taking on Luana Pinheiro. Angela Hill is a minus 140 favorite. Pinheiro can be had for plus 120. I mean, everything about this fight just kind of screams like, Angela Hill, volume, pulls it out, wins a close, probably relatively greasy decision. Because that's what she does against like this level of prospect trying to move up the ranks. What are your thoughts about this fight?
Yeah, listen, I think we all expect that it's going to be close and competitive, likely go 3 rounds, and then you just want to be sitting on the right side of the decision. It could be similar to a Tisha Torres type fight, not the way it plays out, but just they're close rounds. You can say one fighter won, but one fighter won by what margin, right? So with Luana Pinheiro, she's not particularly young, so with their problems, I don't think that she might correct, but she's like massive front runner, man. Like, I don't know if it's nervous energy or if she's got supreme confidence in her abilities to just finish these opponents really quick, but she goes out there and she throws down fast. When it doesn't work out, she gasses by quite a margin. People remember the Ronda Marcos fight where she dominates the first round, then the second round she's running on fumes against a girl that had, I love Ronda Marcos, but a girl that had an extremely limited run within the organization, gives her everything she can handle. The tides are turning, and presented with the first opportunity to quit. Here's a great, okay, Rebecca, we know he screwed me, okay? But let's just give him the one thing I'll only give him. He's dead to me, and I'll give him the one little thing. I'll give him the one little thing, is that in the second round, he wins the first round. In the second round, there's a headbutt. The headbutt closes his eye and splits his eye. Now he's got a fat gash that at one point they stopped. The minute 8 left in the second round, they stopped the action to look at the cut on his head. His face is swelling shut. Had he just told the guy, I can't see, had he told the guy, nah, man, they would have gone to the instant replay. They would have seen him as caused by a head clash. It would have gone to, because he didn't look and say, pause, pause, pause. The ref called a halt in the action. What was this caused by? A strike or a headbutt? The headbutt had already been acknowledged. He could have quit then and there. They would have gone to the scorecards. No, they wouldn't have. 2 full rounds hadn't been completed. Even if they would have said, well, we'll judge this second, then it would have been 1-1 a draw. If it's just no 2 full rounds completed, they'd go to a no contest. I'm a zillionaire right now. But he had enough balls to be like, let's do it. So was it smart or was it stupid? Like savvy veterans like Diego Sanchez have pulled the I can't see and won. And he wouldn't have won because it was totally accidental. But unfortunately, that somehow shit goes here. She's presented with the opportunity and she flat just quits. She quit right then and there. That was always going to be a problem to me. Her next fight was Sam Hughes. She got the 2 takedowns. She got some control time, but she landed 60 significant strikes, 60-53. Very close, middling type fight. Her fight with Watterson, she gets outstruck 61-44 and gave up the takedown. Won a split decision, but it's like, by how? Because she lands some bigger strikes, I suppose, but the cardio's not there. The volume's not there. The grappling's not there. There's not a whole lot that I really love. But it's the Amanda Hebus fight to me that was like the real eye-opener. Is that in the Hebus fight, she comes out just smoking. Here's a girl that's 4-0 in the UFC that should be gaining experience, that knows she doesn't have great cardio, and just goes out like Rebecca. I'm just going to fight a bonehead, unsustainable pace for the first round and gas myself out. She's landing a bunch of shots, getting the better of Hebus, and then all of a sudden, Hebus just waits for her to gas out. As soon as she does, takes over. Clear knockdown, beats on her, outworks her. That's what Angela Hill does best. Like, she's a savvy enough veteran that she's got volume for days, but she's not throwing shit just to throw it. She's setting it up. She's using her footwork. She's using the jab, the low kick, baiting you into traps, using stuff like the body shots, using stuff like the leg kicks that don't necessarily do a ton of damage in that first round, but the longer the fight prolongs, that's when she's going to capitalize. She's very much a technical striker and a savvy vet. Similar to many fighters on the card, she's fighting father time at this point because technically she's way better. It's that there has been some regression. She's not as fast as she used to be. She's been getting rocked in a lot more of the fights recently. But similar to a Vicente Luque, I suppose, against Rafael dos Anjos, you see her come out in her last fight and utilize wrestling. Because not only is she someone that's been striking in the UFC for a decade, but every camp requires you to wrestle and grapple and attend your jiu-jitsu classes. And offensively, not terrible, man. So she got 5 takedowns her last time out against Denise Gomez, another strong, hard-hitting Brazilian. I think that she's going to use a lot of those same veteran savvy plans here to just allow Luana Pinheiro to kind of just overexert herself early and then take over. It's going to be a scrap. It's going to be close. It might be a split decision. Angela Hill's been in a ton of split decisions. Generally, they don't always go her way, but sometimes they do. And I'll take her on one of those.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Any chance for like a Hill round 3 type of prop? You know me. I'm always
yeah, no,
thinking a
listen, it's
little
awesome.
greasy because, like, I mean, Hill by decision obviously is the most, logical way to think about this fight, but they're not giving you much meat on the bone there. She's a minus 140 favorite, and it's plus 100 for her to win by decision. You have like 25 to 1 on her, like, winning in round 3, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility, particularly if Luana, I mean, Angela Hill just doesn't really finish anybody. We'll see when all the other props open up. If I take a little shot, but like I actually do like Angela Hill to get the job done here. But yeah, potentially it's a better live bet, just in the sense of Pinheiro will come out hot. You may get a better price than the minus 140 on Hill after round 1, particularly if the pace is like super high.
Agreed.
All right, we got Tom Nolan taking on Victor Martinez. Tom Nolan is the biggest favorite on the card. He can be had for minus 475. Victor Martinez can be had for plus 375. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel here, Cody. What are your thoughts on this one?
So you're seeing it like week in and week out that there's just on every card, there's this one guy that it's like, oh man, this Robellis Dispang guy, he's got the goods. And it's like, Vitor Petrino, he's got the goods. But like none of us can put our finger on it. Why does he have the goods? What goods does he have? Because when you watch it, you're going out on a limb, man. You're going out on an absolute limb to be like, he's better than what he shows and he's saving it and he does this tremendous work in the gym and this, that, and the other. And like Tom Nolan, when I watch tape on him, it's like, I like him. I actually think, unlike those guys who I think are way more fraudulent. Now, Vitor, I suppose there's a body of work to look at, but with Tom Nolan, it's like what you do see looks good. With Michael Figlak, what you do see on the regional scene looks good. With Matus Rebecki, what you do see on the regional scene looks good. And then they come over to North America and it's like, it's not clicking. It's not clicking the way it used to be. I'm not saying it's drug testing. It's just like, it's a different format. It's a different lifestyle. It's a different, doing media and in a public weigh-in and then coming out and then having to sign this poster 500 times. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know what the transition is, but a lot of these European guys just kind of struggle once they do come over. Tom Nolan, again, his grappling's okay. I think it's good enough to keep him out of harm's way in certain situations, but predominantly this guy's looking to strike, man. He's got nasty striking, knows how to put guys away, big for the weight class, long, seems like he's going to have a bright future. Sam Patterson, another guy I bit the bullet on. Big, tall, from the UK, looks awesome on the regional scene. He looked good his last time out, but yeah, Patterson faltered in his UFC debut. Tom Nolan runs into the same thing. He fights Nicholas Mata. He's a sizable favorite. You're saying he's the biggest favorite on this card. He was a minus 350 favorite over Nicholas Mata. Mata has had a bad run of late, losing. I think he was on a 3-fight losing streak. Mm-hmm. This was his pink slip fight. He really needed it, and he just, it's like right cross, boom, he hits the deck, Mota jumps on him, pounces, takes him out. Now, why would you want to bet this guy is a sizable favorite over anybody? Mota's boxing's okay. Mota can crack. But again, he represented what is considered to be the lower level of the UFC. And if this guy can knock you out in a minute, just catching with a flash shot, it's problematic. Could he be like Sam Patterson and look way better in his sophomore outing? I think so. I do think he will. But is not a guy that you can load up on and have a ton of faith on because he's another looked awesome as a prospect. Now he's got to fight some, not the big boys, but the bigger boys. And it doesn't necessarily work for him. But the UFC, they paid money. They understand he has a fan base. They understand he's got a very fan-friendly style. And they understand that there is talent there and he's a legitimate prospect. And they're willing to work with those guys. And we've talked about this last week with Chase Hooper. When they're willing to work with you, they can build you up and give you those right fights. As long as Borshev should have killed him, regardless that Hooper knocked him down. Let's just take that off the table. It was that Borshev always ends up on the ground. And you knew when Hooper ended up on top of him, that was it. It was going to end up on top of him. And then as soon as that day happened or that moment happened, it was over for Borshev. So regardless of a knockdown, regardless of an eye tapped, it was just going to take a single body lock clinch, peel him to the ground, get on top of him. And that was going to be it. You can match these guys up properly based on stylistical clashes. Victor Martinez, he tough son bitch, right? He's tough son bitch that just hasn't really had that much success at this level. He's been fighting professionally for 13 years. Lost his first 2 fights, starts off 0-2, and then goes on a run. He's willing to stand in the pocket. He's willing to throw down. He's not exactly the fastest guy going. He's not exactly the biggest puncher going, but he's one of these CJ Vergara types, or one of these I'm willing to just at least stand with you and giving you an entertaining type fight. He had picked up nothing overly notable, but a couple okay regional show wins on like that Texas scene for Fury. Jumps over to Contender Series, beats Jacob Rosales again. This is nothing overly significant. And then against Jordan Levitt, like, I can't explain it. Jordan Levitt knees him in the face 3 times from the clinch and he goes down. And like, Levitt might be the softest puncher on the roster, right? Levitt's got almost nothing in his strikes, and Levitt just buzzsawed this guy who, for the record, had fought when he fought in the Contender Series. He had not fought prior to that in almost 3 years. Okay, so he went from not fighting for 3 years to fighting on the Contender Series, where he won a decision. Then he had to sit for another over a year, like 16 months. Then he fought Jordan Levitt, where he got knocked out. And now he's been on the bench for another 16 months. So he's had 2 fights in the last like 4 years. And I don't know, like what there's such a clear lineup here. Now, what's the path? Well, Tom Nolan just got punched out by Nicholas Mota. Mota's got legitimate wins on the regional scene. You look at him, he was good at one time, and he's got a lot of power. You can't take that away from him. He himself might not be the complete package, and he's chinny, and his cardio is not great, but like, he's a decent in-the-pocket boxer, and he's got a lot of power. Guys like that can catch Tom Nolan. Martinez's last knockout win, again, it's 5 years ago. Nah, it's 4.5 years ago. He beat Luis Luna on a first-round knockout. Luis Luna currently rocking a 19-11 record. He's a very well-known Texas journeyman, but still, that's who he'd beat. Prior to that, Nico Etcheverry, he caught him as well. That was that same year, 2019. That's it. He's got 5, 6, 7, 8 wins by knockout on his record. So if you just look at him on a SureDog.com or something, you see eight knockout wins. This guy can crack, but again, most of those are between the last 5 and 10 years, and it's just like run-of-the-mill guys, right? Now there's a jump up in competition. Tom Nolan is a jump up in competition. He's a better fighter. He's faster than him. He's longer than him. He hits harder than him. His cardio is better than him. It's just you're banking on a puncher's chance. That's it. Could it happen? Paul, you know as well as I could do. It could. But will it happen? Nah, I'm going to say no. So Tom Nolan's the play here.
Yeah. Victor Martinez's nickname is The Brick. I feel like you have to change your nickname if you get knocked out in the first round by Jordan Levitt, who literally has like not really much power to speak of. I guess there was was that Matt Wyman when Wyman came back? It was like the takedown slam with the elbow, which was like pretty nasty. Other than that, it's like the guy's mostly a grappler. He wants to tie you up. He wants to take you to the mat. He wants to submit you. Like getting knocked out.
Wants to twerk on you.
And it was that's a pretty bad look. I understand why Tom Nolan's a favorite. Obviously, there's big question marks. I don't think I'm going to get involved too much with this fight because, with that question mark, with a spotty chin, let's just call that. It's obviously already been exposed. He's only 7 fights into his professional career. That's just a dangerous proposition at minus 500 for me to really attack this fight. There's 12 fights on the card. I won't be really forcing action at Tom Nolan, but he will be the pick. All right, we got Oumar C taking on Tuco Tokkos. The board has question marks because this fight just got booked, but it does seem like there's some odds out there right now. Minus 285. I'm sure these are going to move quite a bit because they weren't available literally like a couple hours ago when I made these graphics. Minus 285 for Oumar C. Tuco Tokkos, who's coming in on incredibly short notice, and it sounds like he's traveled a long way to get here, and yada, yada, yada. Can be had for plus 225. I mean, Tuco, you may be familiar with him from he got absolutely mollywopped by Mingyang Zhang, who, I mean, showed up in the UFC and seems to be a bit of a murderous power puncher. But, I mean, there's some big-time question marks. Anytime he's stepped up to this level, he's been kind of absolutely flatlined, like he did against Ty Guerter in Bellator before this. Oumar C, on the other hand, was watching some tape on him before we came in here. I think he's a very, very green prospect. I think he can get through this fight, but like it's a lot of most of his game seems to be predicated on him getting takedowns. Even like some of his like knockdowns, he has like a head kick knockout on the regional scene. It's like he's slipping under his foot when he hits that, and he's fighting like a real low-level scrub. It's like he wants to get this fight to the mat. He wants to do that pretty much immediately. Based on like all of the scenarios and everything of how this fight came together, the short amount of time for Tokkos, I'll be picking Oumar C, but I hope they line this guy Oumar C as a big favorite. Obviously, he's 9-0. He's got some credible wins, but like those credible wins against former UFC veterans in his last 2 fights, it's like those are guys who are way, way, way past their prime at their Ildemar Alcantara and Luis Frankenstein, right? Remember Luis Henrique da Silva? So those are his last 2 wins, and it's mostly the same type of thing. Take him down, either ground and pound from background. Like he seems to have like a system to him. It's like if he gets some resistance, which I don't know if Tokkos can pull or can provide here, I'll be fading Oumar C. But for this fight, I think he gets the job done. What about you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to confirm. I'm pretty sure Oumar C is Sadibou C's brother. Anyways, I'd have to confirm that, though.
I'd affiliated with Bulgarian Top Team, which I found interesting. At least that's what Tapology says.
Right. And right now he's at All-Star. He's with Volkan Oezdemir and Gustafsson. So he gets work in. I thought for some reason that they were brothers, but now that I'm trying to look it up,
I'm on their Instagram. I don't see Sadibou
I can't
anywhere.
confirm it, and then it would probably sound very racist of me just to assume that.
Yeah,
and with Sadibou, he's Swedish, and this guy, he's French. But it's a traveling family is the main thing. Is that Sadibou's from Sweden. The family traveled around a lot. He's traveled around a lot. He ends up in Las Vegas. Oumar in France, then he moved to Bulgaria for a long period of time, and now he's over in Sweden. So Europe is not, I wouldn't say like it's not big, but it's like everyone's got a passport and people tend to travel around a lot. So again, he's physically a specimen. He's a very strong guy. He was fought for KSW for a while, looked pretty good there. Like Paul's saying, he is green. He's not completely refined, but he's only 28 years old. Mm-hmm. And when you look at Sadibou's game, he's like a long striker who's been adding the grappling to his game, and that's resulted in solid win streak. And he won $1 million in a PFL tournament. With Oumar, he is kind of the opposite, is that he prefers to grapple. He gets a lot of takedowns in these spots. He's physically strong. He's capable of getting you down and dominating you. And now, as a result, I don't know that there's a whole lot of guys lining up to face him. They'll face him because it's like, oh, it's an opportunity to fight in the UFC. But the guys that are already in the UFC are not signing up for this one. And you look at just like he's got 4 canceled bouts. Last time he fought was a year ago. And that's not by his own problem. That's just no one wants to fight him. This Ivo Cuck, right? He's like, I'd rather watch somebody sleep with my wife. Kiber Silva, he's like, the fight got canceled. Rodolfo Bellato pulls out. They give him Antonio Tricoli. Tricoli pulls out. And now he's getting Tuco Tokkos. Him versus Tricoli at -250 he was at the time. I love that. I was going to line up on C. This is a different matchup. So I think he beats Tokkos, but I don't think you're going to get that good of a price tag on him. What did you say it was at right now?
I mean, it's probably super, super fresh and green, this number, so I expect it to move, but it's -285 plus 225.
Yeah, so it's not like super off, I suppose, from where it was. Yeah, with Tucos, it's like it's not that there's anything against him, is that he's another one of these very talented European type fighters, and you see the same thing in boxing. It's called European level. There's European champions, and there's guys that'll be career European level fighters that'll take one sniff at that world championship level and just get dusted out. They're brought in with nice looking records built up on one scene. Now they're jumping into an international, global scene, and there's just like a giant jump up. Tucos is the same thing. He starts off 4-0. He looked good. Bellator signs him on the basis of that. He took on this Kevin Fryer. He's a big favorite. He drops a decision. His next fight against Ty Guerder, he's a big favorite. He gets knocked down in the 3rd round. Bellator cuts him. At this point, he does end up stateside, and Fury FC tends to use him. Wins a couple fights there. Ty Flores, most notably, because Ty Flores fights for PFL. More of a grinder, not really a durable guy that can take a punch, but a decent win there. Brings him on the Contender Series. This is another spot where he is a -675 favorite over Ming Yang Zhang is what he went off at, right? But you've seen him twice in Bellator. He's 0-2 in Bellator, for the record. And both times as a favorite, he didn't look good. Now he's on the Contender Series as a near 7-1 favorite, biggest favorite on the card, less than 4 minutes in the 1st round. He gets piped. So So another just very untrustworthy guy that you really couldn't get behind. But he travels around a little bit and he picks up a couple wins. And it's not that he doesn't look good when he's in there, but the first guy, Gabriel Thremoto's 3-2. Well, you should win that one. Then he fights a guy that's 1-7. So he's 8-3. He's fought twice for Bellator, once in the Contender Series, but he's fighting a dude that's 1-7. For what reason? For what reason? To pad your record, because you as an athlete are not getting anything from that. You would if you were 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, you know, like early in your career, you could benefit from a 1-7. If you really need a confidence boost because you're on a 4-fight losing streak, you might take a 1-7. This guy just does because that's the level that he operates at. That Myron Dennis is not really that big of a step up from a 1-7 guy these days, but Myron Dennis hurts his arm early. So considered a decent win, but not a great fight in and itself. I think he's super chinny. I think he doesn't have great durability. Cardio is not great. Kind of a sitting duck there at times. And with Sadhusi, if Sadhusi takes him down, he's going to ground and pound him out. If he doesn't, there's a chance he just cold cocks him with something. Similar to Themba Gorimbo. I'm a natural grappler, but I have tons of power in my hands. Kevin Randleman, remember him? Guy was a fantastic wrestler, one of the best. Striking, oh, dude, it was so stiff and robotic. If he hits you, like Miracle Crow Cop, he hits you, you're dead. You're dead. Because he had all the power in the world. He just wasn't a striker. Didn't know how to set it up. Didn't know how to throw it. C will eventually get to that point. C will eventually become a lot more well-rounded because he's got all the goods. He just needs the experience and the comfort level, and all of that just comes with time. So, yeah, I think he goes out there and smashes up a Tokkos. Think about it from Tokkos' standpoint. I want to get paid to be a pro MMA fighter, okay? You cannot make a living as a pro MMA fighter unless you fight in the UFC, or maybe you can fight in like Bellator PFL. There's a chance there. Maybe like a one championship, maybe a KSW. But again, you're looking at the highest ranking, the best organizations in the world, okay? So in Tokkos' case, when he signs with Bellator, that's his opportunity. And what does he do? He loses his first two fights against Kevin Fryer and Ty Guerder, both of whom never went on to go do anything.
No.
That was his chance. And he just fails out, right? Flails out right then and there. Back on the regional scene, builds up a winning streak. Okay, on the Contender Series, they've given me a guy that I'm a 7-1 favorite over. Everybody that's watched tape on this expects me to kill this guy, and he gets stiffed. Okay, now you get back on the regional scene and you win 3 more, and they're like, you want to take a fight on 4 days' notice against a guy that's like a very legitimate prospect, looks like he could be the real deal? You're not going to say no. If you said no, your dreams are over. Go get a real job. You're going to say yeah. You're going to show up. You're going to get your ass kicked. You're going to sign a 4-fight deal, though. They'll give you at least 2 more. Hell, they might even give you 3 more. And then, yeah, that's up to you to get your career back on track. But at the very least, you attained your dream. You made it to the UFC. Between the $12,000 they're going to give you to show up and the $5,000 Venom's going to give you, $17,000 is a career high payday for him. Why wouldn't you take it? And because it's punchy kicky, he could land. He could pull something off. He could land a knee up the middle. He could get a quick little guillotine submission. Sadhusi could have a stomach bug and gas out right away. Anything can happen. It's just like less and less likely. So give me Oumar C. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you called him Sadabu a few times.
I know. I did, and that's my bad, and I apologize for that. But yeah, I was getting going there. You're just trying to say C, but it's like, man, is he saying yes in Spanish? Is he trying to make me see something? It's so I try to use his full name, and then I'm sure I butchered it a few times. But there's no way you're thinking I didn't know who he was talking about during that rant. At least you know who I was talking about. Hopefully C goes out and gets the W.
I guess we will see. But yeah, I mean, there is nothing on social media that would prove that they are related in any way, shape, or form. C may just be a very, very popular last name.
It could. So let's drop that one. He's his own man. He needs to go and make his own
and his
reputation
style
for
is
himself.
Considerably different than his alleged brother, according to not racist, but potentially racist, Cody. I'm kidding. All right, moving on down. We've got Melissa Gatto taking on Tamires Vidal. Melissa Gatto, a -320 favorite. Vidal can be had for +250. In my mind, all I think about is when Vidal on the regional scene in that gym or whatever in Argentina or wherever the hell that Mickey Mouse promotion was being held. I think of it's that fight that is the illegal knees, but she was getting absolutely ragdolled. And then I think of Melissa Gatto and how physically powerful she is in most of her fights. She's had some somewhat tough opponents over, like Lipski's been making some improvements. Tracy Cortez is a solid all-around wrestler. And I mean, the only wins at the UFC level are, Eubanks and Leonardo, which are pretty low level, don't get me wrong. She's a big favorite here, but unless Vidal's made some significant improvements here, I think she gets absolutely manhandled and out-grappled and controlled quite easily. I know the CF dot model and all of that, but Vidal is not going to be someone I invest money in probably ever in the UFC. So it's Gatto for me. What about you?
Yeah, I gotta agree. It's like, you're a product of your surroundings. In Vidal's case, she fought Eileen Perez in that fight that you're referring to.
Yeah,
So both girls, both girls made the UFC. Pretty crazy how that works out. But yeah, it's like there's limitations there, and she's super raw. She gets a disqualification win in that spot. But since then, it's like, again, like she's a go-getter. I just think there's like massive limitations to every area of her game. She's not a very good striker. Her footwork is non-existent. She doesn't move her head. There's no real power in her hands. She's not setting anything up. There's no volume there. There's no deep game planning. There's no, maybe throw a couple of hands, chuck some hands, throw a little leather, and then maybe try to grab a hold of her and pin her up against the cage for a little bit. But again, there's just not enough there. She beats Ramona Pasquale, and that's a career best win for her because it's a UFC victory with a flying knee. She got a $50,000 performance bonus out of it. How crazy is that? And that's the mountain peak of your career, because now it's all valleys. They give her Montserrat Rendon. It's a split decision. I can't agree that it was a split. I thought Rendon won the fight, but again, with Vidal, you would have to really just give her a lot of time, I would think, on the regional scene. She's only 25. So this is not someone that would be bad forever. It's that there's not winnable fights for her in the UFC, or very few of them. Whereas Melissa Gatto, it's a bounce back. It's another case, and that's the narrative of this card. This card is the UFC is doing people some favors, or trying to do some people some favors, and this is the card that's landing on. And that's exactly the case with Gatto. Gatto looked to have the goods, man. She comes into the UFC, she fights Victoria Leonardo, right? Just smashes her with a body kick that Leonardo blocks, hits the forearm, breaks the forearm. This girl's got nasty power, strong striking, comes forward, good cardio, strong physical grappler. I like it. They give her a fight with Sanjara Eubanks. She's a plus 140 underdog against Eubanks. Goes out there, stuffs the takedowns, works her, puts her away. Nasty body kick. This one gets through. When you don't block it, you're even in more shit than when you do block it. She hits as a plus 140 underdog. She cashes a $50,000 performance bonus. Gatto at this point looks like a legitimate prospect. Like she's going to be good. She fights Tracy Cortez, right? Tracy Cortez is a top 5 girl in the division. This is a step up. This is who's legitimate in this division, right? In their fight with Cortez, she initiates the grappling, got 3 takedowns over Tracy, put herself in some really good spots. The striking's there, but you see the physicality. You see the grappling. Lots of good stuff to like about Gatto. Loses a split decision in a very close fight, but now you know she can strike and she can grapple, because Tracy Cortez ain't no slouch in the wrestling department, ain't no slouch in the grappling department. Being able to hang and have good spots, great stuff you can take away from that. And then she runs into Ariane Lipski. Now, this one is where I can't quite understand it. You've got all the momentum in the world behind you, and you just showed that you could wrestle, and then she went 0 for 7 in the takedowns. She didn't really commit to any of them, but she never got close to getting Lipski down. So she resulted in just standing there and trading with Lipski, and did outstrike her 85-66. But it's moments of rounds, and like Lipski had the takedown. Lipski had a nice little flurry. Lipski did enough to edge that thing out. But now you've lost 2 competitive decisions. It wasn't a split against Cortez, sorry, it was unanimous. And then she lost a split to Ariana Silva. But in the Tracy Cortez fight, super close, super competitive. In the Ariana Lipski fight, super close, super competitive against good girls in the division. But she loses them. So then they book her against that Dudakova, right? Victoria Dudakova. And Dudakova shows up on the scales. I think she showed up on the scales, but I know for a fact Gatto did, weighed 125, and then the fight gets canceled. Dudakova got sick. So the UFC gives her show money, and then they're like, hey, do you want to fight 8 weeks from now up a weight class? So she's going up to 135 to fight Vidal, which I don't love. They don't love. But to me, that's the UFC being like, hey, you're on a 2-fight losing streak. Your fight got canceled. We know you're talented. We'd like for you to get back on track. Sorry your opponent bails out after you already cut weight and made weight, but no athlete fighting in the UFC should be cutting weight that much, right? Fighting, getting hit in the head, that's one thing. It's the weight cut is the big thing. So instead of being like, hey, do you mind cutting all the way back down to 125 again in 8 weeks? They're like, hey, we'll salvage your fight. We'll get you a fight. You'll still have that payday. Very winnable fight. You'll have to go up a weight class so you don't have to cut weight. We'll give you the worst girl in that weight class so that it offsets it. And that's what you're seeing here. Gatto is way strong at 125. That won't diminish at 135. She's a way more polished, way more powerful, way more technical striker than Vidal. She's a way better wrestler than Vidal. She's got more experience than Vidal. She seemingly just got her outgunned everywhere. The jump up in weight class, a little bit problematic. Vidal also has a full camp here because she had another Haley Cowan, I think, pulled out due to injury. So like Vidal has a full camp and is a weight class up on her, right? Those are her two advantages. Whereas Gatto's a weight class down and probably doesn't have a full camp for this one. But her and her team would have accepted it for a very specific reason. It's a bounce back. That's what it is. She needs to go and deliver in the spot.
100%. All right, moving on down. We've got Abus Magomedov taking on Warlley Alves. Abus is a minus 280 favorite. Warlley can be had for plus 240. I mean, Warlley at 185 doesn't seem like a great idea. I know Iliskerov is obviously a super tough matchup, but it's like the writing's been on the wall for this guy for a long, long time. He can be dangerous. He can land some absolutely lethal body kicks, and he can put the hurt on you very, very early in fights. Guy's an absolute gas bag. Magomedov, obviously, against Sean Strickland, he looked like $1 million in round one. Maybe the moment, maybe the pressure, everything kind of got to him, and he fell off an absolute cliff. I don't know if that was entirely like, hey, this guy's an absolute gas bag, or he set a pace basically early against Sean Strickland, thinking like the only way I'm going to beat this guy is if I knock him out early, and you know, he succumbed to it in round two. Got absolutely mollywopped once he fell off of a cliff. Like that was like one of the more bizarre like changing of the tides. We were on Strickland, but like my butt was absolutely puckered in that spot. Just kind of looking at how successful Abus was in round one there. At the end of the day, it kind of comes down to like, I mean, this is a fight that obviously doesn't go to decision. There is some volatility, some scary moments potentially early, but like I hate Warlley at 185 pounds. Like he was never really big at 170 pounds compared to a lot of his other opponents. He's given up a ton of size here. May have a little bit of success early, but I expect Abus to catch him, whether it's like end of round one or maybe in round two or something. Just manage your cardio a little bit better. And Warlley will typically, I mean, maybe the cardio for Warlley was part of the issue at 170. Is like maybe he'll have better cardio at 185, but we don't really know that yet. Abus seems like the rightful favorite in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, Abus is definitely the rightful favorite. It just, yeah, it's two guys with bad cardio. So as much as we think Abus is going to win, the pick is definitely Abus Magomedov because he's like a big enough price tag near 3-1 that the worry is just like his last two fights. Like when the wheels fall off for this guy, boy, oh boy, do they ever fall off. The luckily thing here, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, is it's very much a bounce back fight. The UFC knows what they're doing. Abus has got a lot of talent, has just fought two of the best guys in the sport, and now they need to put him back on track. So you go and you dig up, and you don't go and you take the number 5 guy in the division. You don't take the number 8 guy in the division. You don't take the number 10 guy in the division. You don't take the number 15 guy in the division. You don't take the number 20 guy in the division. Hell, Paul, Warlley Alves might not be the number 25 guy in the division. He's a career welterweight, won Tough Brazil back in the day at 170 pounds. His entire career is at 170 pounds. He's got one career high moment. One Tough Brazil, that's a career high moment, I suppose. But it's not real Ultimate Fighter, and winning Tough's kind of stupid these days anyways. But he's got a win over Colby Covington. Guillotine choke, nasty work. There was a time where drug testing wasn't really all that prevalent, where Warlley Alves was pretty goddamn good. He got a nasty body kick, super explosive. Bang, bang, bang. He hits you, you're in a world of shit. He grabs a hold of your neck, you're in a world of shit for 5 minutes. The first guy to actually expose him outright is Bryan Barberena. He was a minus 600 favorite over Bryan Barberena, who did quite literally nothing else but just be tough, and that was enough. Carl Usman, he's obviously good. James Krause, underdog, same thing. Randy Brown, submitted him. Who saw that one coming? He was a favorite -200 over Jeremiah Wells. He was a favorite over Nicholas Dalby -135. Favorite over Randy Brown. Favorite over James Krause -320. So he's all of his losses. Brian Barberena, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of his 7 losses in the UFC was him as a sizable favorite. Because he's a pie shit. Okay? Untrustworthy. Got a lot of skill for that first 3, 4, 5 minutes, but that's it. He doesn't got, I wouldn't say it doesn't got the heart of a fighter, but like his cardio is just not there. And when you get tired and you're fighting elite level competitors, it's going to be a problem. He starts to eventually just look checked out. You know, this guy's checked out. He's showing up not for the paycheck, but maybe just showing up to get the thing over with. His fight with Nicholas Dalby, although it was a close split decision, and Dalby's a decent fighter and it looks good, that's the last time he makes 170. After that, he takes 9 months off and comes up to 185 pounds versus Ikram Aliskerov. Now, he's a 5-1 underdog, which is not a spot he usually takes. He usually fights the worst guys he can, or at least guys that he's a big favorite over. But he took the fight over Aliskerov, up a weight class, toughest fight he could, first time at 185, for no other reason than to get paid. And when you see them in the cage, when you see them at the weigh-ins, you see Warlley is not a middleweight, Paul. Like, he's not even a big welterweight. He's okay size welterweight. He's not a giant welterweight. And he really looks out of place against Aliskerov, who's a hell of a big boy. And in that spot, it's like, yeah, he just looks out of it of sorts. That big power at 170, that quick body kick, you know, hit Manuel Aziz, you know, that quick guillotine choke. Once that stops working, now you're up a weight class taking on bigger guys. Yeah, he doesn't have to cut weight. That's fine. He's not in great shape. His cardio's not good. He never has been all that good. He's just like a quick guy. If he gets that quick win, that's fine. Again, the longer it prolongs is going to be a problem for him. His benefit is the same thing as Abus's benefit, is that Abus is more of a quitter and also has the bad cardio. But in Abus's case, what you can't take away from him is that he still, to this day, has world-class skills. His fight with Sean Strickland, he wins the first round. He outstruck Sean Strickland 32-11 in the first round, so he tripled him up, and he took him down. And people don't usually take down Sean Strickland. He's a brick wall. Not only does he take him down, it's like, God damn, this guy's as advertised. Dagestani wrestler from a famous, a famous family. What's there not to like from Abus Magomedov? You like him. The guy can wrestle. The guy can strike. The guy's got volume. The guy's got all the goods. It's the same thing, is that he's not a complete fighter because he can't fight beyond 5 minutes, beyond 10 minutes. So when he gasses against Sean Strickland, it's a bad place to be. His next fight against Caio Barahau, how many people had a bet on Caio, myself included, that were like sweating out that first round? Caio looks like shit. He can't get nothing going against Abus. But then Abus tires in the second round. And more so than he tires, it's the same thing. Sean drops him. When Sean drops him, the wheels fall right off. Caio Barahau drops him. Once Caio drops him, the wheels fall right off. Because now it's cardio and he doesn't find that resolve. Some guys are better, like Nate Landwehr. He's better when he hits the deck. He's better when you rock him. Then they turn it on. Chris Lieben was always like that. They turn it on. Forrest Griffin, legendary fighters. You know, once the going gets tough, that's when the tough get going. Abus is not that. He's got all the skills in the world, extremely talented. But like as soon as he gets hit and he's rocked, he's kind of looking for a way out. Now it's fair to look for a way out versus Sean Strickland. He's a former world champion. And it's fine to look out for a way out versus Caio Barahau. He's at the very least probably a future title contender. Warlley Alves, this is your bounce back. He's a washed up 3-fight losing streak former welterweight who's 33 years old, which is the same age as Abus, but one guy at least is still fighting some of the best guys in the game, and one guy's losing to fringe contenders. So this is not his weight class. He's 0-1 here. He looked vastly out of place, and now he's taking on a poor man's version of the same type of guy he just fought. Just a hard-hitting Russian guy with some wrestling and some grappling to back it up with. If you're Abus and you're Abus's sponsor and you're Abus's coach and you're Abus's team, you've got one of two choices. You find a way to get EPO into this man's veins, or you just got to work the shit of his cardio, man. It's got to be cardio, 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 and then he can actually be good. But they're not idiots, and they're saying the same thing that we're seeing. Hey, man, our guy's doing good, dude. He looked good against Strickland before he gassed. He looked good against Caio Barahau before he gassed. Well, let's fix the cardio issues. And if they do that, against Warlley Alves, of all people, that's not going to drag him into deep waters, then this is an extremely winnable fight for him, Paul. And so for that reason, yes, I think his wrestling is more than good enough to keep the fight standing. His striking, he's going to use his jab, he uses his speed, his longer frame. If he doesn't just cold cock outright Warlley Alves, I think that he'll just be able to keep him on the end of the jab, outwork him, get into the second,
the pace slows down. They're both not throwing in all that much. Mix in a takedown. Don't stick your head in a guillotine choke like Colby did. But if you avoid those two spots, you probably win 2 of these 3 rounds. I would hate to say it's a fight that goes to decision because it's going to be just, they're both going to be so sloppy if it makes it that far. I don't know if it's going to make it that far. Someone's going to gas and fall over first. I'm just hoping it's not Magomedov. So give me a boost to get the job done and get back on track.
All right, we got Piera Rodrigues taking on Ariane Carnelossi. Piera Rodrigues is a -220 favorite. Carnelossi can be had for +180. Who you got?
I really don't have a whole lot of underdogs on this card. And again, I can't force the spots, but Paul's got an underdog. Paul's got Edson Barboza. Hats off to him. Outside of that, like, do you got anybody else? Is there any other dog that you like had some strong lean towards?
Tuco,
like if you think seems
this one does. Were you asking me a question or no? Because you asked me.
Yes, I asked you, but then I laid out the options. But do you have an answer? Who's the best underdog other than your Barboza pick?
Maybe Carnelossi. CF dot model here. Because like
Piera's
got low volume striking. All of these fights have been like pretty low level of competition. They've been relatively close. She got subbed obviously last time out. Carnelossi's been in there with some pretty tough opponents over the course of her UFC career. She does not have the greatest wrestling, but has had decent. I mean, against Estela Nunez, she was able, when she had a massive strength advantage, was able to get 5 takedowns. Loopy absolutely dominates probably both of these opponents, or both of them. So throw that one out. She got absolutely mauled, but didn't give up. Went the full distance in that fight. Liang Na came out, had some success with the wrestling against Carnelossi early, but obviously she fell off a cliff. She was able to get the finish. And then, I mean, going up against a veteran like Angela Hill, no real shame in that, particularly when it's your UFC debut. I mean, Carnelossi is built like a fire hydrant. Girl's super, super strong. Yeah, I think if any dog has my attention this week, I feel like it's Carnelossi. Just with like physicality, really, what it comes down to. She's super, super strong, and if she's making improvements, I think this fight could be a lot closer than the line of -220 +180. So to get out of the way for you, Carnelossi was gonna be my pick here as the big dog. I mean, I've already taken Barboza and Carlston Harris, but that one's pretty much a pick 'em. But yeah, Carnelossi will be the other dog.
Oh yeah, and then that's what I'm saying too, is like I don't like to force a spot where it's like, oh, I need an underdog, but we have to recognize that it would be a rarity for all the favorites to win. So at the very least, which favorite is going to shit in the pie? And Piera Rodrigues is that fighter. Not because there's anything wrong about her, but there's no definitive go-getter, move forward and get the victory if need be. It's more so just low volume, going through the paces, bit of a sparring match. She's physically strong, but her offensive wrestling is not that good. It's okay. It's not something I think she can rely on. Her grappling is not great, not something she can rely on. And the striking, it's a little bit stiff. It's a little bit predictable. I don't mind her. I like that there's a certain type of je ne sais quoi to her game, but I don't know what it is. And it doesn't always lead to the victories. When I see her on the Contender Series against Valeska Machado, the first 2 rounds, again, she's rugged. She'll come forward. She'll take your best punch. She'll throw one back. Is it a winning style all the time? It leads to close fights, but she can win the first 2 rounds. The 3rd round, she kind of gasses as far as I'm concerned. Drops the 3rd, still wins the fight. Her fight with Kay Hansen, in the 3rd round, she lands 14 significant strikes. It's a low for the fight. She's tired in the 3rd round. Her fight with Sam Hughes, 29-28, on the basis of this is a hotly contested fight where she does land a career high 83. So that's a fight where Sam Hughes pushes her to her limits. She responds. She had a decent 3rd round in terms of volume, but a nicked up fight that you can see that aggression, that athleticism, that power, it starts to vanish the longer these fights goes. She takes down Sam Hughes 5 times. She doesn't want to strike with Hughes. Hughes' forward pressure has got her tired. Now she's huffing and puffing. Now she doesn't like that Hughes is starting to build some momentum and rally, so she's able to take her down. You take that takedown off the table, it's not going to go good for her. And then she runs into Jillian Robertson. Now, Robertson's a better wrestler. Robertson's a better grappler. Robertson doesn't have great cardio, but has probably better cardio than Pieri. And you see Rodrigues starts off good, But the longer the fight goes, again, it's like she gets an early takedown. She muscles it. Robertson gets back up. Then Robertson gets a takedown. Rodrigues isn't moving. Rodrigues isn't scrambling. Rodrigues is sucking for air. Only unlike those other girls that were just willing to stand in front of her and spar, she's got someone that's hyper aggressive and looking for takedowns and submissions. So it doesn't go good against Robertson. Now, with Rodrigues, again, she's 32 years old, so I don't see her game getting incrementally better. She may come in better shape. She may come with a better game plan, but I don't think that this is someone that shows up and you say, damn, her striking looks way better. Damn, her wrestling looks way better. It's whether what she's got is enough to beat the opponent in front of her. Carnelossi, meanwhile, got, I think, the cardio edge. If you look at her fight with Na Liang, Na Liang's a front runner. We all know this. Na Liang's actually not bad for 5 minutes and then just gives it up to everybody. And in that fight with Carnelossi, she has a quick start, 3 takedowns. Carnelossi works her way back up, starts to land those shots. She's built like Liz Carmouche. Like, she is a very well put together, physically in shape individual. And as soon as Na Liang tires out, she capitalizes and knocks her out. Her fight with Estela Nunez, she arguably loses the first 2 rounds. Estela Nunez is someone who has good skill, very limited gas tank. The second Estela Nunez gasses, Carnelossi's there to capitalize, takes her down, takes her back, and locks her up with the rear naked choke. And then her fight with Lupita Godinez her last time out. Unfortunately, there's limitations to this. Carnelossi is physically strong. You know, she's got some okay skills, but she's never going to be a top 10 contender. Lupita Godinez is just much better all around. Lupita takes her down 8 times. But I'll be damned, Carnelossi is physically strong. She works her way back to the cage. She creates space. She gets back up. She gets taken back down. She works her way back up. And Lupi, I rate way higher than Rodrigues. And Lupi's wrestling, I rate way higher than Rodrigues. And if she's able to continuously get back up like that against Godinez, then if Rodrigues does take her down, she's going to get back up. The wrestling is going to be exhausting, and it's going to exhaust Rodrigues, who's got a suspect gas tank, whereas Carnelossi, she's used to people dragging her to the ground. That's what they all try to do, because when they don't take her down, she throws punches in bunches. And when you're built like her, I wish she threw her hip into them a little bit more. She'd generate some more power maybe, but she's so muscular that if she hits you, it's going to do damage. If she's throwing high volume with that kind of power and that kind of pace and that kind of get-up game, so to speak, she should outwork Rodrigues and get the decision. Now, is it going to be another women's MMA, hotly contested, 3-round affair? Could be a split. Internet doesn't agree. Maybe. But dude, look at the odds. Like, would the odds suggest that? No, man, this is a pick'em at best. And they got Rodrigues way inflated. So automatic Carnelossi bet. Let's get this thing done. Probably the PRP pick, but again, let's get this thing done.
And I will say, just looking at Instagram right now, bro, post USADA Carnelossi, do you have you're gonna need some tickets to the gun show because she is looking jacked.
She's
she
jacked.
was already jacked, but
yeah.
She takes her strength and conditioning very, very, very seriously. We'll just say that.
I thought it was, when I was on Instagram earlier, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just bite the bullet and take Edson Barboza here. But dude, it was Carnelossi. And at that point, I was like, oh, this is my dog of the week. I am in.
All right, we got Kleydson Rodrigues taking on Alatang Hali. -150 for Kleydson. +130 for Alatang Hali. Your thoughts?
No real thoughts. Like with Kleydson Rodrigues, I thought this guy was like a damn talented 125 pounder. Like, he looked like he was going to be a solid flyweight, giant for the weight class, and legitimate skills. He moves well. He's got, precise striking. I wouldn't say not a ton of power because he knocks a lot of guys out, but it is flyweight, and he's a lot bigger than them, for the truth be told. Wins on the Contender Series against that Santo Curatolo. Not a huge win, but still, I like Curatolo. Wasn't a bad win. And then loses to CJ Vergara. That one burnt my ass because he was a -360 favorite and expected to win against a just stay busy guy like Vergara. But the weight cut kills him because he can't make 125. So him attempting to make 125 will lead to that. His next fight against Shannon Ross, we talked about earlier, but he does to Shannon Ross what you're supposed to do, and that's folds him up in a minute. But he missed weight for the fight. So here's a guy that just 125 is not in the cards for him. They book him against Tatsu Taira, and the fight got called off because he steps on the scale at 129. So misses weight back-to-back fights. One of them happened, one of them didn't. When he did lose to that fight to CJ Vergara, that's him making 125 and probably exhausting himself. So they throw him in at bantamweight and they give him Farid Basharat. It's not a good fight. It's not a particularly favorable debut in the 135-pound division. But like what he had at 125, like what made him good at 125, it's not actually there anymore. Like his power at 125 is not going to translate as good as 135 pounds, where these guys all have better chins. They're used to hitting bigger punchers. It's flyaway power now at the bantamweight division. His wrestling, I mean, he's a tall, skinny guy. Like he can take you down, and he does have good jiu-jitsu, but his cardio seems problematic, maybe because of the weight cuts, but his cardio is problematic. His durability seems a little bit problematic. Now all of a sudden I'm thinking here's a guy that could be a glass cannon. All the skills in the world to be good offensively, but when the tide gets put on him, he's not exactly the most trustworthy guy going. Alatang Haley, meanwhile, he's kind of the opposite. Like he's not spectacular in any one area, but he's tough and he's rugged. And he trains at Fight Ready MMA, one of the best camps going. They got the guy in shape. He can defensively wrestle when need be. He can march forward. He can strike. When you look at his losses, right? Casey Kinney was, whatever happened to Casey Kinney? He was good.
Yeah,
Gustavo Lopez, I don't know. That one really hurts me. Chris Gutierrez, his last time out. Again, these guys are good. He loses to a good level of competition, and none of which have knocked him out. Like Casey Kinney melted him to the body, landed 109 significant strikes, and it was just teeing off on a punching bag. And at no point did Hailatang Ali show zero signs of quit. He could take one hell of a punch. Went to distance with Gustavo Lopez because Lopez could take him down consistently. Still an okay fight. His last time out against Chris Gutierrez is too fast. He lands 110 significant strikes moving the whole time. But you know how Gutierrez fights. Touch and go, touch and go, touch and go, and can do it all night. Kleydson can't do that. Like he can't move consistently. He's not going to hit you and move, hit you and move, hit you and move. He relies on generally getting that quick finish. And Alatang Haley never been finished. Kleidson's moving up that weight class where he has less power and his wrestling is less effective. And Alatang Haley's established at this weight class. Wins over Chan Anheliger, that didn't age terribly because Anheliger's not terrible. Win over Kevin Crew. Kevin Crew's like 5-1 in BKFC. Ryan Benoit's actually also fighting BKFC, but Benoit's got a win over Sergio Pettis. To the naked eye, they're bums. None of these guys are bums. Alatang Haley's a warrior. He fights to the level that he's at. He's in close fights. That's fair. If you can associate a decent price tag with him, you'll know he's going to go out there and fight for your dollar. And again, on a card that I'm short on underdogs, I need one that's going to fight for my dollar against a potentially fraudulent, too big for 25, weight bully at 25, 0-1 at 135 didn't look all that good. I can try to fade that. That's something I can try to fade, which I'll try to do here by taking the Chinese fighter at slight plus money.
I can't really disagree. Yeah, Alatang Ali, for his faults, is very, very difficult. I mean, he was finished, I guess, like over 10 years ago, like on the regional scene. And I guess
Didn't
Kai Azakura finished him as well in road.
Okay,
so there is some risk there.
Kaya Sakura is like a Japanese sensation kickboxing master, and then you'll know. And then the other guy that knocked him out, I mean, it was it was 10 years ago.
Dennis Purich, Kunlun Fight 13.
You know Dennis. Dennis is from Hamilton. He's the Bosnian menace. He's the man. He's got a fight with Rod Tang coming up for the one championship 125-pound Muay Thai title.
Yeah, so he's dangerous.
He's the best guy in this. Dennis is the definition of dangerous. He smokes and he's got 5 minutes of cardio. But if he hits you, you're so dead. You're dead. He's like Melvin Manhoff. He never put it all together, but he's one of the most deadliest pure power punchers in the history of power punching and can beat any man on the planet, including a horse. Because if he hits you, you're going to go down. So, like, yeah, Alatang Haley has been knocked out. But again, that fight was 10 years ago, and his fight with Asakura, I want to say, is like 7 years ago. And since then, he's been in there with some punchers. Vincius, meanwhile, his wins with knockout are all, I mean, he knocked out Shannon Ross. I guess that one would look good, right? Outside of that, he knocked out a 4-3 guy. That was 5 years ago. He knocked out a 2-3 guy. That was 6 years ago. Yeah, that's it. He's got 3 knockout wins on his record. Of his 8 pro wins, he's got 3 by knockout, and none of which, other than Shannon Ross, have come in the last 5 years. 1 in the last 5 years over Ross. So you can't say one guy, Alatang Ali, we know is durable. Could you knock him out? Anybody could knock anybody out, but it would probably take a legit puncher. Where Vincius is not, or Kleydson Rodrigues, is not a legitimate puncher to begin with. If he's the guy to do it, we'll all be damned.
Yeah, Kleydson knocked out Shannon Ross, but we've already went over this already, Cody.
And he missed weight, dude. He came in at 127, which means he was within 1 pound and was like, nah, man, I can't do it anymore. His fight with Cody Durden, he pulled out, didn't want no more. The fight with Tyro, we mentioned, he got on the scale at 129. Like there's stuff again, the other loss is CJ Vergara, where he's a minus 360 favorite and expected to roll. So there's definite question marks. You can see he's got a whole lot of skill, but he's one of these guys that he's like chocolate. And once you put the heat to him, he melts.
Yep. Oh, and to answer your question, yeah, Alex Tangalea will be the pick for me as well. But I think maybe a better live betting opportunity where I expect Rodrigues to have some success early in the fight at the very least. Casey Kenny, I mean, lost by split decision to Song Yadong and Dominic Cruz. And then hasn't fought.
Badass.
It's been almost 3 years now. And then he did surface. Remember when he made those comments about Megan Anderson?
Oh, yeah.
He made those comments about her on some podcast or something like that. And then he got shamed by the internet community. His Instagram has a picture from a week ago where he said absolutely nothing, but it looks like he's in the gym training again. So I have no idea what this guy's been up to, but yeah, no, he was super, super talented. And I mean, those 2 losses are by split decision to 2 guys that top 5 in the division. I mean, Dominic's probably a little bit over the hill at this point, but like right there, top 5, top 10 guys in the world. So hopefully we see Casey Kenny back in action, and we'll find out what the hell he's been up to, because it's kind of a strange one. Finally, we got Emily Ducote taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. Minus 340 for Ducote. Vanessa Demopoulos can be had for plus 280. We've talked about Emily Ducote enough on this program over the years that you have kind of told me she's a collegiate wrestler, or at least high school wrestler. That should be a problem for Demopoulos. Demopoulos has a lot of heart, good jiu-jitsu. She calls it stripper jiu-jitsu or whatever. But if she can't get the fight to the match, she's probably just eating shots from range. I feel like she's probably pretty sub or bust here, but Ducote should be able to handle that as well. You know me, I'm always looking for the CF dot model and when to enact it, but this doesn't really seem like the matchup to do it to me. What about you?
Well, the thing is, you could enact the CF dot model in this spot for one reason and one reason only. Vanessa Demopoulos has this crazy characteristic to her where this is crazy, Paul. This is crazy. If she goes out and she wins the fight, then she wins the fight. But she could also go out and lose the fight and also still win the fight. And she just, like, she has something about her where I don't understand what the judges are watching, but they'll give her a fight where she's otherwise getting outstruck, outworked, taken down, controlled, and lands a couple pitter-patter shots off her back, and that's enough for them. That's enough for them. If you look at her fight with Jinyu Frey, right? So she beats Jinyu Frey on a split decision, and she jumps into Bisping's arm, and like such a well-deserved win, right? That fight, SureDog.com, two people scored at 30-27 for Frey. And then MMA Junkie, SureDog had 2 more people, Wrestling Observer, Bloody Elbow, Eurosport, MMA Uno, and the drreporter.tv all score the fight 29-28 for Jinyu Frey. 1 media member, MMA Mania, gave the fight to Demopoulos. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 media members score for Frey. 1 gives it to Demopoulos. 2 of the 3 cage side judges give it for Vanessa Demopoulos. That's fair. That's her first win in the UFC. Without that win, she effectively would have dropped down to... sorry, I'm just bringing it up exactly. I guess she beat Silva Gomez Juarez before that. So she loses to JJ Aldrich, and then she beats Silva Gomez Juarez in a fight that she gets knocked down. Gomez Juarez jumps on top of her, looking to put her away, and she snaps up an armbar. Then 11 of 12 media members give it for Jinyu Frey, and the judges give it to her. Then Maria Oliveira outstrikes her 83 to 55. Sorry, 83 to 55. But she got a knockdown and a couple takedowns, and she creases it out. Then her fight with Kanako Murata, her last time out, right? Her fight with Kanako Murata is exactly the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 media members scored it for Murata, and 1 gave it for Vanessa Demopoulos. So of 14, 13 of them gave it one way, and 1 gave it the other way. And yet all 3 judges seemingly see it for Vanessa Demopoulos. So, do they love this groundwork that she's doing off her back, and where she just sits there and smacks you in the side of the head? Is that enough? Her takedown defense is non-existent. Her takedown offense is pretty well non-existent. Her striking, like, she hits hard and she's a willing participant. She's a fighter. She's a scrapper. She's willing to just march through the pocket and throw down with you. She's got, but she doesn't move her head, and she's not constantly throwing as much as she's constantly moving. So her numbers are generally her getting punched in the face 3 times for every 1 punch she can land, and then failing on takedown attempts. If she can pull a guard, great, but like, her jiu-jitsu is world class, but it's not so world class that she's just going to sub you as soon as it hits the ground. Like, there's been spots where she's been dominating for 3-4 minutes and not gotten much going. So again, this is another spot that Vanessa Demopoulos is not going to take down Emily Ducote. And she's not really, she is going to stand with her. She is going to crash the pocket. She's going to throw down. But Ducote's going to be using her footwork. She's going to be moving laterally. She's going to be touching her up. She's going to be counter-punching. She's going to be winning on volume. She's got better striking, more refined striking, better kicking game. Again, did wrestle in college. And quite literally, what's our worst-case scenario? Our worst-case scenario is Ducote throws a kick, Vanessa Demopoulos catches it, Ducote hits her back, and Vanessa's on top, right? That's our worst-case scenario, correct? Mm-hmm. Even in that scenario, Emily Ducote is a BJJ black belt under Rafael Lovato Jr. She's Rafael. He's not even Brazilian. He's American. It's not Rafael. It's Rafael. Under Rafael Lovato Jr., one of the greatest American BJJ practitioners of all time. Like, she's a really good grappler. The thing with Ducote is she's actually really good everywhere. She can wrestle. She can strike. She can grapple. She's got a good mentality. She's got cardio. She's got durability. There's just some fighters that fall into like Joseph Benavidez mode where they've got it all. They're just not the best. Ducote has got it all. She struggles when she hits that like top 3 to top 5 level of competition. Vanessa's not a top 3 to top 5. She's 4-2 in the UFC, and 2 of those wins are arguably flat robberies. So she could easily be 2-4 in the UFC. She's 35 years old, and she's switched, I think, to 2 or 3 different camps in the last 3 fights. 2 fights back against Carolina. She misses weight at 115, coming in at 117.5. Her last time out, she did make the weight. But again, one has to wonder, is it hard to make the weight? Is any part of her game improving all that much? I've heard that she's super coachable, but she's been getting 3 or 4 different coaches. So what coach is going to give her the game plan of, stand there and strike or pull guard or take her down? Like, what will her game plan be? I have no idea. Could she win this fight? Yeah, just by keeping it close for no other reason than she's done this before. Keep a fight close. Everybody in the world thinks she loses, but the 2 of the 3 people sitting there are like, shit, dude, I one time paid this chick $100 for a lap dance at the club, and if I get this decision the other way, she might tell my wife, and then all of a sudden she wins decisions. So, barring that happens, Paul, I think she loses here. Emily Ducote's the pick. By decision. Yeah. I'll take it by decision.
Yeah, I mean, Demopoulos has been very, very durable. I mean, her only takedowns, she had 1 takedown against Jinyu Frey, and she had 2 against Maria Oliveira, who has like pretty bad takedown defense.
And Jinyu Frey's a 105.
She's tried against pretty much everybody and just got absolutely stuffed. Like, at the end of the day, I think this fight comes down to like Ducote putting up like 115, 120 significant strikes over the course of 15 minutes. And like Demopoulos is topped out at like 70 against JJ Aldrich. Seems pretty clear to me, outside of like slipping on a banana peel, that Ducote probably wins this, and likely by decision. All right,
it'll look like the Karolina Kovacevic fight, right? Karolina lands 139 to Vanessa's 68. Vanessa went 0 for 4 in takedowns. Vanessa has a 13% takedown accuracy in the UFC. 13. So if she would have taken down Karolina, at least attempted 10 takedown attempts, theoretically she could have gotten 1, maybe 1.5, which would mean 2. If she shot 10, shooting 4 is not enough. And that's her problem, is that she'll half-heartedly try one, and then when it doesn't work, she's cool with getting punched. So it's like, oh, it didn't work. Well, let's throw down. It's like, I appreciate that. It's fun to watch. It's reckless at times, but it's not the winning formula. So And we're on the same page, I think, there.
All right, we're just about out of time here, but before we go, Cody, hit him with the PRP.
Yeah, we're short for underdogs again, but we've had a couple cards this season that mostly were favorites hitting, and it's just whether you agree with the lines, which I'm gonna have to agree with a lot of them. I'm leaning Lerone Murphy, but like that's a tough one, truth be told. We're gonna go with Khaos Williams. We're gonna go with Themba Gorimbo, Adrian Yanez, Angela Hill, Tom Nolan, Oumar C, Melissa Gatto, Abus Magomedov, Ariane Carnelossi's dog number 1, Haile Alatang Haile, however you want to pronounce it, would be underdog number 2, and then we're going to go with Emily Ducote. There's certain spots where, like, if you didn't love the lean, I think Ducote and Vanessa in either scenario goes to decision. So you can hit an over there at a slightly worse price, I'm sure. Piera Rodrigues versus Carnelossi, like I don't know what the over under would be, but it's likely getting late into the third if Rodrigues flat gasses, and even in that scenario, like maybe that one passed because one of them's got a gas problem. I don't know. I guess there's other props that you could go through and discuss, but we've been talking for nearly 2 hours about this card as it is, so I won't waste any more of your time. Yeah, unfortunately, I just got to hope that most of the favorites do their job again and that those slight underdogs that we do have come through.
Yeah, Ducote decision minus 175 seems better. I mean, that over under is jacked up. Over 2.5 is minus 500. So, the books are telling you how they think. They're respecting Demopolis's durability and kind of looking at how this fight is. So yeah, Demopolis by split decision. I mean, a lot of these Apex cards I don't like. This
They're
card
getting out of the Apex, you might like that.
We've had some other cards recently that were just like, oh, I like a lot of bets on this card. I mean, Yanez round 3, I'm going to be looking for the best number available. I like Barboza, but obviously you're on the other side there. Hill round 3, Hill money line have my interest. Carnelossi money line, and maybe Alatang Haile. Like I don't have too much. I'm going to obviously bet it. I'm a degenerate. I bet these cards every single week. But this card seems like a little bit of a, hold your horses thing. Because there's a lot of red flags on a lot of... You end up on this type of card because there are some question marks surrounding you. So I don't...
Yeah, but similar to last weekend, and similar to pretty much every weekend moving forward, because it's where we're at in the state of combat sports and betting lines. But like there's... Not that you'd want to get involved, but you've got 8 fights on a Friday night, A1 combat for Uriah Faber, right? Then you've got an additional 15 fights on the Friday morning for ACA. Then there's 10 fights Friday night for Bellator Fighting Championship. There's 10 more fights Friday night for BKFC. You'd have to be such a degenerate to bet Centurion, although I have, bad idea, don't do it. A lot of it's caged boxing, don't do it. LFA is also on Friday night. Before the UFC even occurs on the Saturday, there's some 75 fights happening for respectable organizations. Now I'm saying with Bellator, randomly. God, I like Patchy Mix. That's my boy. Cedric Dubé, don't get a sliver in your foot this time, bro. Oh, Archie Colgan. How could you not love Archie Colgan? Matsar Banui, honestly, don't add him to long parlays. He's a little untrustworthy, but he's got the goods. The BKFC card. Jeez, what do you like on this BKFC card? And I have to do more research than I just start throwing names out, but there's somebody. There's the A1, the LFA, there's the Road to UFC, there's a UAE Warriors, and then you come on, even tonight is a Wednesday night, there's a Fight Pass Invitational grappling matches. Like there's so much that when you get to these tight ass UFC cards that it's like, that's a 50-50 fight. I don't know. If you got a good lean and you like it, play it all day. It's an underdog that you like, play it all day. If it's one of these I really don't know, but I'm chasing value, just take a fight from another card that you like better. And it used to be UFC was the only game in town. That's the only thing that's on. Well, that's what you're going to bet. But now there's tons of Friday action, Saturday action. Last week I got, after the UFC, there was a Fury FC on the Sunday. Like there's so many opportunities that if you are a fight fan, do your research, find good spots. And if you just want to bet straight up tickets like Paul or other people or a straight plus money underdog, or I don't know, a prop play or whatever, that's all fine too. I'm saying don't over force the spot unless you've got like a concrete gut feeling about it.
Thibaut Gauthier, he's in action. He's a big
Thibaut Gauthier, I expect to get smacked up. Yeah. I mean, he's taking on Archie Colgan.
Is Archie
Colgan? Yeah, I think he is. Because they got guys.
650 good.
They got guys like Cody Law, right? Who it's like, oh man, this guy can wrestle and he's at American Top Team, and Matt Brown or Mike Brown loves him and super coachable. And then when you see what's going on, it's like, this guy ain't it, man. Archie, I can't really say that about him. He comes from solid collegiate wrestling pedigree, very athletic guy. His debut as a pro, goes with 3-0 as an underdog. His debut as a pro is with LFA. He goes 2-0 with LFA. Bellator signs him immediately. Easy. Now he's not even wrestling, dude. He's just going out there and striking, knocking guys out just with his hands. They throw him in there with Emmanuel Sanchez, who we all know, former Bellator title challenger, who's fought all the best guys in the game. As savvy of a veteran as savvy gets, Hogan just neutralizes him. He can out wrestle them. He can out strike them. He's young in the game. He's very athletic. Training at Colorado. He's on a 12-fight winning streak. Both of these last guys, Emmanuel Sanchez and Peter Buist, who's actually got a long in the tooth like European record, but has fought in a lot of good guys. Both of those guys are better than Tebow Gowdy, and he's beaten both of them. So I have no reason to believe that Tebow chin checks him. But Tebow, if he does anything, you know him, he plants his feet and he chucks bombs. So like that is his win condition.
It's in France.
I just, yeah.
You smell that croissant. Little pate.
You know what? You're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong about that.
I
would
watched
say
enough
that
Bellator cards from like regional enough regional MMA to know that sometimes in like a grappling heavy type of situation,
right,
that you get some squirrely results, particularly like early on the undercard. Just saying.
Well, that's why I like Cedric Doumbé, because he's a giant star in
Could
France.
get sliver in his foot, though.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if he's got a bona fide, like, I think that sliver in the foot was in France too, wasn't it? Let me just make sure.
That was wild. That was like one of the most insane. Like, what is happening?
It was in France. It was maybe 1-1. He was not doing anything to win the third round, so he was going to lose regardless. But yeah,
let me pull this sliver out of my foot, and we can continue fighting. They're like, fights off, over, like insane. What a debacle that was.
Insane, but I'll leave you with this, right? State of the game. Same thing as people are like, kids these days. State of the game, dog. Okay. There's 3 minutes left in the third round. Maybe 2 minutes left in the third round. It's 1-1. His opponent ain't doing shit. He ain't doing shit because he's got the sliver in his foot and he wants to pull it out. And he tries calling a timeout. The ref's like, no, you can't. So then he stares at his opponent and starts having a conversation with him. And the opponent looks at the referee like, this guy doesn't want to fight. So the ref says fight. And then he says, oh, my foot. Then he calls it off, right? Over a sliver. Well, I remember there was a time where the great Uriah Faber fought Michael Thomas Brown for the WEC title. He breaks his left hand. He breaks his right hand. He fights 3 full rounds, throwing nothing but elbows because he had 2 broken hands. And he got a sliver in his foot, Paul. Finish out, dog. Paris, France, PFL main event. You're supposed to be this great star, great kickboxer. Like, show some goddamn gumption, man. Sliver in his foot.
In fairness to him,
I'm the idiot that's going to bet him at like minus 450 again this weekend. So take what you want.
In fairness to him, though, it's like his opponent like backed off, was just like, yeah, let him like take the sliver out of his foot and let's continue fighting. And then like the refs just like
he felt bad. He felt bad because he was just like,
and he had a sliver in his foot, which I mean that's kind of it was so bizarre. It was so bizarre. Anyway, yeah, lots of MMA this week. But that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Megan and Cody Saptic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Oh, oh, oh.